My name is Clara, and for 10 long years I truly believed I was living a love story. Daniel wasn't just my husband, he was my world. The man who held my hand when I was scared, who made me laugh when life felt too heavy, who swore he'd never hurt me. Every morning he'd kiss my forehead and whisper, "You're my everything, Clara." And like a fool in love, I believed every word. We had what people called a dream marriage. A pretty house by the coast, quiet evenings filled with music, and pictures on the wall that showed nothing but smiles. But behind those smiles, there were cracks. Tiny ones at first. Ones I refused to see. It started with changes so small they almost seemed innocent. Daniel began coming home late. First once a week, then almost every night. He'd walk in smelling faintly of perfume I didn't wear and say, "Client dinner, babe. You know how business is." And I did know. I worked hard too. As an interior designer, my days were long. But no matter how tired I was, I always made time for him. Dinner on the table. His favorite wine ready. A wife who loved him beyond reason. But the man sitting across from me at dinner wasn't the same Daniel I married. His smile looked rehearsed. His eyes wandered. And when I asked simple questions, like, "How was your day?" his answers felt scripted. Still, I told myself, he's just stressed. He's working too hard. Because that's what love does. It blinds you with hope. Then one night everything changed. I was folding laundry while watching TV. One of those quiet evenings when everything feels normal. Until I saw something that made my hands freeze. A white dress shirt. Perfectly ironed. Spotless. Except for one thing. A faint reddish lipstick stain. Right on the collar. My heart dropped. I stared at it for a long moment, my chest tight, my mind racing for logic. Maybe it's from a client. Maybe a coworker hugged him. Maybe. But deep down I already knew the truth. When he got home I confronted him. He looked surprised, then laughed. Actually laughed. "Claire, come on. You think I'd cheat on you? It's from a client hug. You know how some people are overly affectionate." His voice was calm. His eyes steady. And like a fool I believed him again. Because love makes you doubt yourself before you ever doubt them. Still, something inside me changed that night. The trust one once gave so freely now had cracks. I started noticing everything. The way he kept his phone face down on the table, the sudden business trips, the faint smell of expensive perfume clinging to his jacket. And each time when I tried to ask, he'd smile that same empty smile and say, "Don't be paranoid, Clara. You know I love you." But the way he said it didn't sound like love anymore. It sounded like a lie rehearsed 100 times. So I smiled back. I told him I believed him. But in my heart, a quiet voice whispered, "Something's not right. And one day, you'll find out." Little did Daniel know. That day was coming. And when it did, he would learn just how wrong he was to think I'd never find out. The lipstick stain may have faded from his shirt. But it never faded from my mind. From that day on, my marriage started feeling like a puzzle with missing pieces. One where I suddenly realized I'd been staring at the wrong picture all along. Daniel became distant. Not in the loud, obvious way some men do, but in quiet, deliberate ways that cut deeper. He stopped calling during lunch breaks. Stopped asking about my day. And every night when I'd reach for his hand in bed, he'd roll away mumbling, "I'm just tired, Clara." Tired. That became his favorite excuse. One afternoon while cleaning the living room, I heard a buzz from his phone. A message flashed across the screen. "Can't wait to see you again. Last night was perfect, red heart." My body froze. My hands trembled so hard I nearly dropped the phone. But before I could unlock it, the message disappeared, deleted just like that. That was the moment I realized I wasn't imagining things anymore. Still, I didn't confront him right away. I needed proof. Because when you've loved someone for so long, you don't want to destroy everything on a hunch. You want certainty even if it breaks you. That night, I lay awake beside him, pretending to sleep while he texted under the blanket. The faint light from his screen reflected on his face. Calm, focused, smiling. He wasn't texting a client. He was texting her. The next morning I called my best friend, Maya. She was the only person I trusted enough to tell. "Maya, I think Daniel's cheating on me," I whispered, my voice cracking. There was silence on the line for a few seconds. Then she said, "You don't think, Clara. You know, you've just been too afraid to say it out loud." Her words hit hard, because they were true. That evening Maya came over. We sat in the kitchen with cups of untouched tea, going through everything. His new routines, his business trips, the phone messages, the late nights. She looked at me with that fierce determination only a true friend has and said, "Then let's find out the truth. No more guessing." The next morning I told Daniel I was visiting a client out of town. He kissed me goodbye, not knowing that I was about to uncover his biggest lie. Instead of heading to work, Maya and I drove straight to Daniel's office. When we arrived, the receptionist, a polite young woman, looked surprised to see me. "Oh, Mr. Daniel took the week off," she said with a confused smile. "The week off?" My heart pounded. I forced a small laugh and replied, "Oh right. I must have mixed up the dates." But inside my world tilted. Daniel wasn't at work. He wasn't with a client. So where was he? We got back into the car and Maya turned to me. "What now?" I took a deep breath and opened the Find My Device app linked to his phone. He'd once used it to find mine, a feature I never disabled. A small blue dot blinked on the map, 2 towns away. At the seaside resort. A place we used to go on anniversaries. A place filled with memories of our happiest times. My throat tightened. "He's there," I whispered. Maya's eyes widened. "Do you want to go?" I nodded. "I have to." The drive there felt like a lifetime. Every mile closer made my chest heavier. When we finally reached the resort, I asked Maya to stay in the car. I didn't want her to see what I already knew I was about to find. As I walked toward the outdoor restaurant by the beach, the setting sun painted everything gold. The sky, the waves, even my pain. And I saw him, Daniel, sitting at a table by the water, laughing, holding a woman's hand. She was beautiful, younger than me with long dark hair and the kind of laugh that floats like music. He leaned in, brushed her hair behind her ear and kissed her cheek. It wasn't a mistake. It wasn't business. It was betrayal, pure and deliberate. I stood there, hidden behind a palm tree, shaking. Every memory we ever shared, every "I love you," every promise, every anniversary replayed in my mind like a cruel movie. I could have stormed in, screamed, thrown his drink in his face. But something inside me stopped. Because right then I realized something powerful. He thought I'd never find out. He thought I was too naive, too trusting, too loyal to question him. So instead of confronting him, I pulled out my phone. I took photos. A short video. Evidence. And when I drove home that night, I didn't cry. Not once. Because tears were for women who'd lost something. But me. I was just beginning to take it back. That night, as I lay in bed beside an empty space where Daniel should have been, I whispered to myself, "You have no idea what's coming." He didn't know it yet, but his perfect lie was about to crumble. Piece by piece. Once I stopped crying, I stopped being the woman Daniel could predict. Grief made room for something colder. Clarity. I learned early on that truth is a slow thing. You gather it piece by piece until the picture is impossible to ignore. So I stopped chasing drama and started collecting proof. I did it quietly, the way an expert gathers evidence. Patient, methodical, and almost clinical. First I hacked his routine. I smiled for him at breakfast, asked about his meetings, kissed his cheek before work. Every move designed to keep him comfortable and careless. If he'd spent years acting, he deserved a woman who knew her lines. He never suspected that those small acts were camouflage. At night, while he slept with his phone tucked beneath his pillow, I backed up his cloud messages. I learned how to restore deleted texts, the same way I once learned to reupholster a faded chair. Slow hands, steady heart. I found dates, promises, receipts. I found words meant for another woman that should never have crossed my husband's mouth. Next, I secured our finances. Daniel thought money was his private playground. He was careless with it when it fed his lies. Quietly, I transferred our savings into a new account under my name. Nothing dramatic, just legal steps a careful person would take to protect themselves. I set up automatic bill payments so life wouldn't notice the change. Then I watched him keep spending like always, oblivious that the money was no longer his secret supply. I also planted a small tracker in his car. Call it paranoia or cleverness, I call it insurance. It wasn't invasive in the cinematic way people imagine. It was a single device that told me where he went and when. The tracker confirmed what I already suspected. Late-night drives to the resort, secret apartments, nights that disappeared from our life together. Then I did the hardest thing for someone who's been betrayed. I got help. I met with a lawyer not to wage war but to arm myself with facts and options. She nodded as I handed over screenshots and receipts. her pen an instrument of inevitable closure. "We proceed when you're ready," she said. "And we'll make sure the truth is undeniable." Her calm steadied me. Every move was deliberate. I wasn't looking to humiliate him in public. Revenge that's theatrical is usually childish. I wanted accountability. I wanted him to lose everything he built on lies. The respect, the clients, the small empire of deceit. I wanted to leave him with no comfortable corners to hide in. The final piece of the plan was simple and mercilessly elegant. Confrontation in plain sight, but not by me. I would put everything where it belonged, on the table, in front of witnesses who mattered. I booked a dinner at the seaside restaurant where he met Lana, under his own name. I arrived early and sat where the light would catch his face. I dressed as if for a memory. The red dress from our anniversary, the one he used to say made me glow. When he walked in with her, laughing, the world narrowed to a single slow-motion moment. He saw me, and for the first time since the lipstick stain, he didn't have a practiced excuse ready. His smile faltered. Panic replaced charm. I slid an envelope across the table. A neat pile of evidence, not a spectacle of anger. Photos. Text transcripts. Bank statements. No screams. No theatrics. Just the truth, folded and undeniable. "You thought I'd never find out," I said softly. He looked smaller than I remembered. "And you were so wrong." The morning after the confrontation felt strangely quiet, almost peaceful. For the first time in years, I woke up without pretending. No fake smiles, no forced small talk over breakfast, no silent tears behind closed doors. Just me, and the sound of freedom humming softly in the background. Daniel didn't come home that night. I expected that. Cowards rarely face the consequences of their actions head-on. But what he didn't know was that the consequences had already begun. My lawyer filed for divorce before sunrise, armed with evidence that couldn't be denied. The photos, the bank records, the messages, everything Daniel had tried to bury beneath charm and manipulation was now neatly organized in a legal folder labeled Clara versus Daniel Harper. By noon, his clients began receiving polite but firm calls from investigators asking about financial discrepancies. His business partners panicked. Within days, contracts were suspended. His shiny little company, the one he'd built on lies and betrayal, started to crumble from the inside out. As for me, I didn't hide. I walked through those days with calm resolve, as if I'd been preparing for this all my life. When Daniel finally showed up at the house 3 days later, he looked nothing like the man I married. His perfect haircut was messy, his shirt wrinkled, his confidence gone. He stood at the doorway holding a bouquet of half-wilted roses. "Clara, please," he began, his voice trembling. "I made a mistake. I was stupid. I don't even know why I did it." I looked at him for a long moment. This stranger who once claimed to love me. "You didn't make a mistake, Daniel," I said quietly. "You made a choice. A mistake is forgetting an anniversary. Cheating, lying, stealing, that's who you chose to be." He dropped the flowers, desperation flooding his face. "Please just give me one more chance. I'll fix it. I'll fix everything." I almost laughed. "You can't fix what never existed. You didn't love me. You loved the version of me that didn't question you." He stepped closer, but I moved back. "Don't," I warned. "This house isn't yours anymore. The papers are filed. You can pick up your things tomorrow, supervised." For a second his mask cracked into anger. "You're doing this for revenge?" he snapped. I met his eyes, steady and unflinching. "No, Daniel. I'm doing this for peace." And that was the end of us. He left without another word, slamming the door like it would hurt me. But it didn't. It only reminded me that I had finally closed the right one. In the months that followed, everything changed. I finalized the divorce, sold the business we once co-owned, and used the settlement to start fresh. My new design firm, Clarity Interiors, became both a name and a statement. It was built on honesty, precision, and independence. People often asked if I missed him. Sometimes I'd pause before answering, not because I still loved him, but because I mourned the version of myself that once believed his lies. But no, I didn't miss Daniel. I missed the woman I used to be before him. And now I was finally becoming her again. One evening, months later, as I was locking up my new studio, I got a message from an unknown number. "I hope you're happy. You ruined my life." I smiled and typed back one final message. "No, Daniel. You did that all by yourself. Then I blocked his number permanently. As I walked outside, the city lights shimmered like a quiet applause. My life wasn't perfect, but it was mine again. And as I looked up at the sky, I whispered to myself, not in anger, not in pain, but in victory. He thought I'd never find out. He was so wrong,